Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Before we settle in, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy my videos. And if you'd like, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I always find it strangely comforting to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights, grab your favorite drink, and let's ease into tonight's story. I don't remember when I started writing this. That probably matters. If you're reading it, you're behind the counter. You'll know because the laminate here has a faint swell near the edge, where someone spilled something hot a long time ago and nobody ever replaced it. Your forearms will stick slightly if you rest them too long. The till screen will be angled just a touch too high, as if it was set up for someone taller than you. The overhead lights will be humming in a way you'll only notice once you've been here long enough for the sound to become part of your breathing. It's quieter than you expect for a place with pumps outside and a road that technically exists. The forest eats the sound. The trees are close enough that if the wind ever bothered to move them, the branches would scrape the canopy above the forecourt. But the wind doesn't bother much, not after 10. There's a stillness that starts here at night, the way mist starts at rivers, gradual, certain, and not interested in what you want. The station opens at 10 p.m. and closes at 6 a.m. Not around, not roughly. Those times are the only solid thing about this place. And even then, you'll learn to watch the minute hand instead of trusting the clock. The wall clock behind the scratch cards loses time, sometimes gains it, and occasionally sits stubbornly at a number, like it's trying to decide whether the next second is worth arriving. Use your phone if you have signal. If you don't have signal, use the little travel alarm in the bottom drawer. If the little travel alarm is gone, you're already having a worse night than you should. I unlock the door at 9:58 every night. 2 minutes is enough to switch on the inside lights, wake the tills, and check the drawers without rushing. If you rush here, you start making little choices without thinking. Little choices become habits. Habits become patterns. Patterns get noticed. This journal lives where customers don't see it. I tape it to the underside of the bottom drawer, nearest the back wall, so if someone leans over and peers down, they only see black plastic and dust. The tape leaves residue, so don't use fresh tape every night. Use the same pieces until they curl, then replace them. It looks small. It isn't. The first thing I'm going to tell you before I tell you about the pumps, the customers, or the forest is that the station is not yours. It doesn't belong to you because you work here. It doesn't belong to the company name printed on the receipts either. That name changes sometimes. Different logos, different phone numbers, different head office addresses that lead to buildings with blank windows or empty plots that smell of rain. The station belongs to itself. I don't mean that in a poetic way. I mean it in the way a hospital belongs to its corridors more than the people walking them. In the way an office building belongs to its security passes and its policies and its quiet, persistent rules. You are staff. That's all. If you're new, you'll try to make sense of it. You'll look for a history, a reason, a story with a neat beginning and a warning at the end. There isn't one that matters. You can survive this job without understanding it, and you can lose yourself here while understanding it perfectly. I'm writing because I've done this long enough to see what happens when someone arrives unprepared. They think it's a night shift at a petrol station. They think it's boring. They think the worst thing they'll deal with is drunks, or teenagers messing about, or someone angry about prices. They bring snacks. They bring earbuds. They bring a book. They bring too much of themselves into the building and assume it will still be theirs when they leave. And then something walks in that isn't from any town you've ever heard of and asks for something you don't stock. And you feel very clearly the moment the station decides whether you are going to be useful. If you found this journal, read it, not in a panic, not like a checklist. Read it like you're listening to someone who has been awake too long, telling you how to cross a road that moves. It's 9:57 now as I write this, and I can hear the building settling. The roof makes small clicks as the temperature drops. The fridge compressor cycles with a tired sigh. Outside, the forecourt lights throw a pale wash on the concrete, and the pumps stand in it like patient animals. Beyond that, the tree line is a hard black mass, not shadow, not darkness, a presence. Sometimes, if you stare long enough, you'll convince yourself the trees are slightly closer than they were when you last looked away. Don't do that. Staring makes you invent things. Inventing things gives the night ideas. I've already checked the tills. I've already checked the emergency button under the counter, the one that does exactly what it should do during the day and nothing at all at night. I've already checked the mop bucket in the back, because the mop bucket being moved is a sign you're not alone, even when you should be. At 9:58, I turn the key. The lock always resists for half a second, like it wants to make sure you mean it. The door opens on a narrow corridor of warmer air. The station is never warm, not really, but it's warmer inside than out, and that difference feels important. Like stepping across a line, I switch on the interior lights. They flicker once, then steady. The hum begins. The tills chime. I glance at the security monitor for feeds, slightly grainy. The camera lenses, always a little dirty, no matter how much you wipe them. The forecourt, the car park, the back door, the aisle behind the counter. The back door is always closed. That's another solid thing. If you ever come in and the back door is open, don't walk to it. Don't call out. Just lock the front door again and wait until 10 o'clock hits. If you can make it to 10 without acknowledging the back door, it usually corrects itself. Usually at 10 o'clock exactly, the station becomes open in a way you can feel. It isn't a sound. It isn't a change in light. It's like a pressure equalizing, like a room finally deciding it's allowed to be occupied. The first hour is always the calmest. That's not a comfort, that's an agreement. Tonight, like most nights, there's nothing at first. No cars, no footsteps, no voices outside. Just the hum and the quiet and the forest behaving itself. At 10:17, the door hinge groans. The bell above the door hasn't worked in years, but you'll come to recognize the hinge. It complains when someone heavy pulls it. It whines when someone nervous does. And it groans like old wood when something too tall has to fold itself down to enter. I don't look up right away. That's another thing you'll learn. Not out of fear, out of professionalism. People expect you to glance up and assess them. They expect a little flinch of recognition. They expect human signals. Some of the regulars don't like being treated like a regular. They want to be treated like a customer, like a stranger. So I keep my eyes on the till screen for a second longer than necessary and let the sound of his movement tell me who it is. His shoes don't squeak on the floor like normal soles. They make a soft, damp sound, as if he's walked through soil and never bothered to wipe them. The air shifts with him, not like wind, like the room has to make space. When I look up, he's already in the aisle, moving slowly. He's tall enough that he has to tilt his head slightly to keep from brushing the fluorescent light casings. Not hunched, not uncomfortable, just adapting. Like he's done this 1,000 times. His jacket is dark and too thin for the cold outside. It hangs off his shoulders like it's wet, but when the light hits it, it doesn't shine, it absorbs. His hands trail along the shelves without touching anything long enough to disturb dust. That's the unsettling part. He moves like he knows exactly where everything is, but he has no interest in taking anything until the moment he decides to. He doesn't look at me, not at first. They rarely do. He stops by the crisps, then the bottled drinks, then the sweets that have been sitting on the rack so long the wrappers have faded. He doesn't pick anything up. He just stands there, head slightly cocked, as if listening to the packaging. as if the station is telling him what he's allowed to want tonight. In the freezer doors, his reflection lags behind him by a fraction. It isn't dramatic. It's subtle enough that you could blame the glass, the angle, the grime. But once you notice it, you can't unsee it. He steps forward. His reflection hesitates, then follows. He reaches the counter at 10:19. He places 3 coins down, not dropped, placed there, the old kind. You can tell by the color, the dullness, the way the edges are worn smooth. They look like they've lived in a pocket for decades. He arranges them neatly, as if presentation matters. They are warm when they hit the laminate. Warm like they've been held in a hand. Warm like they've been near something that shouldn't be warm. I don't check the price. I don't ask what he wants. I open the cigarette drawer and take out the pack he always takes. Same brand, same color, same crumbling paper. The company doesn't sell them anymore. That's the point. It's easier for the station to provide something that already exists in the shape of memory than something new. I bag them and slide them across the plastic, making a soft crackle. I keep my eyes on the bag, not on him. That's not a rule yet, it's a habit. It keeps the interaction flat. Only then does he speak. "Busy night?" he asks. His mouth barely moves when he talks. The words come out clean, polite, perfectly shaped, but there's no warmth in them. It's like hearing a phrase repeated by someone who has learned that it works. I give him what he wants, normal. I shrug, casual, bored. Same as always. He nods once, a small, satisfied motion. He takes the cigarettes. His fingers are long and pale, nails clean, knuckles oddly pronounced, like the bones are closer to the surface than they should be. The plastic bag doesn't crinkle when he grips it, it just yields. He turns and leaves. The door doesn't close behind him until several seconds after he's already gone. That delay matters. You'll feel it. The building seems to hold its breath until the latch finally clicks. And then the hum of the lights becomes audible again, as if sound was paused while he was inside. I wait a full minute before writing, because writing while they're still near the building is an invitation, not because they can't read, because they can. If they already know the price, don't correct them. They don't like being reminded that things change. That's the first thing I can safely pass on. You'll want more rules. I know you will. People always do. They want a list. They want certainty. They want to feel like they can win this job by memorizing it. You can't. The rules aren't a contract. They're not protection. They're not even consistent. Not anymore. The rules are the closest thing to respect you're going to get in a place like this. You follow them, and the station continues to treat you like staff instead of like inventory. It's 10:31 now. If your first night is anything like mine was, you'll feel almost embarrassed by how normal everything looks after something like him leaves. You'll stare at the aisles and the dusty shelves and the stale coffee machine and think, that was it. That was the scary part. That's when you're most likely to make a mistake. You'll relax. You'll make yourself comfortable. You'll forget that the forest doesn't send its worst customers first. The early ones are a test. They establish the tone. They see if you can be polite without being familiar, calm without being inviting, present without being curious. Curiosity here is not a strength, it's a scent. I'm going to write this next part plainly, because it's important, and because you won't believe me until you see it yourself. There are nights when you will think you're alone in the building because you haven't heard the door. You haven't heard footsteps. The cameras show nothing moving. And then you'll hear the sound of a crisp packet being turned over on the rack behind you, softly, slowly, as if someone is reading the ingredients list. When that happens, don't turn around immediately. Finish what you're doing. Count the change. Wipe the counter. Anything that signals you are busy. Busy is safe. Busy means you have a role. Busy means you are not available. If you turn around too fast, you look like prey. If you don't turn around at all, you look like you're ignoring them. There's a difference. And this place, this station, lives on difference. It's 10:49. The hum of the lights just dipped slightly, like a throat clearing. That usually means the pumps are about to wake up. Keep your eyes on the forecourt, but don't stare. Let your gaze pass over it like you're checking for customers. Let your reflection in the glass do some of the work. If something is close behind you, you'll see it in the dark strip of window before you feel it. And one more thing for tonight, because you'll need it sooner than you think. If the door opens and you can't hear the hinge, don't look up. Just greet them the way you greet everyone else. Calm, casual, like they belong. Because in here, between 10 and 6, most of them do. The first time you hear the pumps wake up without a car pulling in, your body reacts before your head does. It's a small sound, a click, a soft whir, the faint electronic chirp of a system coming online. During the day, you'd barely notice it. At night, in a place where sound has weight, it feels like someone clearing their throat behind you. Tonight, it happens at 11:03. I know the exact time because I was watching the clock. Not because I expected anything to happen, but because the minutes between 10 and midnight stretch in a particular way. They feel longer than the rest of the night. After midnight, time smooths out. Before it, every minute seems to check whether you're still paying attention. The display for pump 3 lights up first, not all the numbers at once, just the backlight, glowing pale green against the darkness outside. Then the digits roll upward, steady and patient, like something filling a container that exists just out of sight. There are no headlights on the forecourt, no engine noise, no movement on the cameras. I don't leave the counter. That's important. And not just because of the pump. The counter is the one place in the station that belongs to staff more than it belongs to the building. It's a boundary, not a strong one, but a recognized one. When you step away from it, you're saying something. You're volunteering for interaction. I keep my hands flat on the laminate and watch the reflection in the glass. The forest beyond the pumps looks darker than it did a moment ago, like the light is being absorbed instead of reflected. The trees don't sway. They never do when the pumps activate on their own. It's as if whatever is happening out there doesn't require movement. Pump 3 runs for 4 minutes and 12 seconds. I know because I count. When it stops, the silence that follows feels heavier than the hum ever did. The display goes dark again, leaving the forecourt exactly as it was before, empty and expectant. I don't go outside to check it. I don't reset it. I don't touch the emergency shutoff. I wait. When I eventually check the transaction log, the pump lists the fuel type as NA and the volume as a number that doesn't correspond to any unit we use. Liters, gallons, cost, none of it lines up. The payment status reads pending. That's when I take the pen from behind the counter and draw a single line through the entry. You'll be tempted to delete it. Don't. Deleting entries makes the system nervous. Crossing them out acknowledges that something happened without pretending you understand it. The software seems to prefer honesty. Never approach pump 3 if it activates without a vehicle present. If it finishes on its own, it will reset by morning. You don't need to write that down where customers can see it. You don't need to label the pump. The ones who need to know already do. At 11:19, someone stands at the edge of the forecourt. I don't hear them arrive. I just notice that the darkness between the trees has changed shape. There's a gap now, taller than it should be, slightly lighter than the surrounding black, like a silhouette cut out of night itself. They don't move closer. They never do. This one doesn't come inside. They never have. From the counter, they look like a person at first glance. Average height, slight build, arms hanging at their sides. If you didn't know better, you might think they were hesitating, lost, working up the nerve to come in and ask for directions. But the longer you look, the more wrong the proportions feel. The arms are a little too long. The head tilts at an angle that suggests curiosity without emotion, and they stand too still, not tense, not relaxed, just held. I keep my eyes on the till screen and wait. That's the rule with this one. Waiting is what they want. After a while, sometimes minutes, sometimes longer, they lift one arm and point at the pumps, not at a specific one, just in their general direction. I don't respond. They lower their arm. They stand there for a bit longer, as if considering other options, and then they turn back toward the trees. When they step away, the darkness closes behind them like water. If someone waits at the edge of the forecourt and doesn't approach the door, don't invite them in. Don't acknowledge them at all. They aren't customers. They're checking something else. I don't know what would happen if you waved. I don't intend to find out. The next hour passes quietly, but it isn't empty. You'll learn the difference. An empty hour feels light. The station breathes easily. The hum of the lights blends into the background. You might even forget the forest is there. A quiet hour feels watched. That's what this is. The cameras show nothing unusual, but I can feel the building's attention shifting. The fridge compressor cycles more often. The coffee machine clicks, even though nobody's used it. The air feels faintly cooler, like the doors have been opening more than they have. At 12:02, the door opens without resistance. No groan, no protest from the hinge. It swings inward smoothly, like it's been freshly oiled. I don't look up right away. Footsteps cross the threshold. Light, uneven, bare feet, if I had to guess. They make a soft sound on the floor, like skin on tile, and they stop just inside the door. I finish tapping in a dummy transaction on the till before I raise my eyes. There are two of them. Children, if that's the right word. They stand close together, holding hands. One is slightly taller than the other, but not by much. Their clothes look like they were chosen by someone who had only a vague idea of what children wear. Oversized jumpers, trousers too long, colors that don't quite match. Their hair hangs in flat, careful shapes around their faces. They're very clean, too clean. No dirt on their feet, no scuffs on their clothes, no signs that they walked out of a forest that chews up fabric and skin alike. They look at the shelves with wide, unblinking eyes, not curious, not excited, assessing. I smile. Not a big one, not friendly, just enough to show my teeth. Evening, I say. They look at me in unison. The shorter one tilts their head. The taller one squeezes their hand a little tighter. Is it on? The taller one asks. Their voice is thin, like it's being pushed through a space too small for it. Yes, I say. We're open. They glance back, toward the pumps. All of them, the shorter one asks. Yes, I say again, because that's what they want to hear. They don't move. I don't offer anything else. After a moment, they turn and walk back outside. They don't run, they don't skip. They move carefully, like they're navigating something invisible. They stop at pump 3. The lights above it flicker, just once. I look away. That's important too. If children enter the station together and ask about the pumps, don't offer to help. Don't correct them if they use the wrong word. Don't follow them outside. They aren't lost. They're checking availability. Pump 3 does not activate for them. It never does. After a few minutes, they leave the forecourt and disappear between the trees, still holding hands, still clean. I write this down immediately, because they don't come every night. And when they do, the rest of the shift tends to behave itself. Like the station is relieved, they've checked and moved on. It's 12:37 when I notice the temperature change. It isn't dramatic, just a subtle warmth near the counter, like someone has been standing there for a while. The air smells faintly of old paper and dust. I don't need to look up to know who it is. This one never goes down the aisles. They never browse. They come straight to the counter and stand close enough that you feel their presence before you see them. When I glance up, they're already there. They look like an elderly person at first glance. Stooped posture, thinning gray hair, a cardigan buttoned all the way up. Their skin has the translucent quality of someone who doesn't spend much time in sunlight. Their eyes, though, are sharp, too sharp. They flick over my face, the counter, the shelves behind me, taking inventory. Still here, they say, not unkindly. Yes, I reply. They smile, and for a moment, it almost reaches their eyes. That's good, they say. Continuity is important. They place a folded piece of paper on the counter. It's yellowed, brittle at the edges, like it's been refolded many times. I don't need anything tonight, they continue. I just wanted to make sure you were still performing your duties. I am, I say. They nod, satisfied, and turn to leave. As they reach the door, they pause. Oh, they add, without looking back, if you ever decide you're tired of this, do let us know. Advance notice is appreciated. The door closes normally behind them. My hands shake for a full minute after that, though I keep them flat on the counter so it isn't obvious. If someone who looks like they belong in an office rather than a forest checks on you, answer plainly. Don't joke, don't complain, don't ask questions. They aren't there to buy anything. They're there to see if you still are. It's just past 1 now. The station has settled again. The forest has gone quiet in that way that suggests it's listening rather than sleeping. You might be wondering why I'm telling you about all of them, one by one, instead of just giving you a list. It's because they don't arrive like a list. They arrive like a night unfolding, each one changing the shape of the hours that follow. Knowing about them ahead of time helps, but only if you understand how they feel when they're happening. If you treat them all the same, you'll get it wrong. And if you try to memorize everything at once, you'll miss the moment something new walks in and doesn't follow any of the patterns you've learned. That's what I'm worried about lately. Not the regulars, not the pumps, not even the children. It's the gaps between them. The moments when the station feels like it's waiting for something it hasn't seen before. It's 1:18 now. The lights haven't flickered. The pumps are quiet. The door is closed. Which means, if tonight follows the usual rhythm, the next thing that happens won't be something I recognize. And that's when you'll need this journal the most. There's a particular kind of quiet that settles in after 1 in the morning. It isn't the same as the quiet before midnight, when everything still feels like it's warming up, testing boundaries. After 1, the station feels committed, like the night has decided it's staying, and you are too. I make coffee, even though I won't drink it. The smell helps anchor things. Bitter, burnt, familiar. The machine gurgles and clicks, steam hissing softly. And for a moment the sounds feel almost domestic, almost comforting. That's how the station gets you. It offers you small, harmless rituals and waits to see which ones you cling to. I set the cup behind the counter, untouched, and wipe the same spot on the laminate twice. The stain from years ago doesn't come off, but the motion matters. Repetition here is a kind of language. At 1:26, pump 1 flickers, just the price display. A quick pulse of light, then darkness again. I don't write that down. Pump 1 does that sometimes, when the ground temperature drops too fast. It's old wiring, harmless. Not everything unusual needs to be documented. You'll learn that too. Writing down the wrong things gives them weight they don't deserve. It's pump 2 that worries me. At 1:41, its display doesn't flicker on like pump 3 does. It doesn't light up at all. Instead, the nozzle shifts slightly in its cradle, just enough to make a soft plastic click, like a finger tapping against a desk. I freeze. The cameras show nothing. The forecourt, the forest beyond it, is as still as ever, a solid wall of dark. The nozzle doesn't move again. I wait a full 5 minutes before I breathe normally. Pump 2 has rules, but they aren't written yet. They're provisional, learned through near misses and the absence of consequences, which is sometimes the only mercy you get here. For now, this is enough. If Pump 2 moves on its own, don't acknowledge it, don't log it, don't investigate. Treat it like a thought you didn't mean to have. By 2 o'clock, the station smells faintly different. It's subtle, a trace of something metallic under the coffee and disinfectant, like old coins, like rain hitting something it shouldn't. I glance at the security monitor again. Same for feeds, same grain, same blind spots I've learned to recognize without thinking about them. The backdoor feed lingers a fraction longer than it should when I switch views. I don't like that. The back door is one of those things that never changes. It's closed. It stays closed. It's been closed every night I've worked here, no matter what else happens. When something that reliable starts behaving differently, even in small ways, it's worth paying attention. I lean closer to the monitor, squinting, looking for movement in the shadows. There's nothing, no shift in light, no hint of a figure, just the door, solid and unremarkable. Still, I make a note in the journal, not a rule, just an observation. The back door lingered. At 2:17, the door to the station opens again. This time, the hinge squeaks. That tells me enough to look up immediately. The person who steps inside looks ordinary in the way that feels almost suspicious now. Average height, average build, wearing a jacket that's too thin for the cold, but not impossibly so. Their face is tired, lined in the way of someone who has worked long hours and slept poorly. They blink. That's important. They blink too often, actually, like their eyes are dry. They squint at the bright lights and rub at their face with one hand, smearing something dark across their cheek. Mud. They've tracked it in from outside, leaving faint footprints on the tile. Real ones. Wet ones. For a moment, I feel something like relief. They walk up to the counter and lean on it heavily, exhaling. God, they say. Didn't think I'd find anywhere open out here. Their voice is rough, human, unpracticed. I nod. Long drive. Too long, they reply. You got a bathroom? I hesitate for half a second. Too long. The bathroom is there. It exists. It's clean enough. It's also complicated. I've learned that denying access outright creates more problems than it solves. So does being too eager. It's round the side, I say. Door sticks sometimes. They thank me and turn away. Footsteps heavy, confident. They move like someone who expects the world to behave. I watch them go, my stomach tight. This is one of the nights I worry about. The nights when something that looks entirely human walks in and interacts with the station the way it's meant to be used. They're gone longer than they should be. Long enough for the lights to flicker once, sharply. Long enough for the hum to deepen, as if the building is focusing. I glance at the back door feed again. The door is still closed. At 2:24, they come back. They look fine, cleaner even. Their face is washed, their hands dry. The mud footprints are still there, though. The station doesn't erase evidence just because something inside it resets. They buy a bottle of water and a chocolate bar, pay with a card that processes normally. The receipt prints with no errors. As they turn to leave, they pause. Hey, they say, weird question. I brace myself. Did you hear something just now? Like voices. I keep my expression neutral. No, I say. They frown. Thought I heard someone talking back there. They gesture vaguely toward the corridor leading to the bathroom. That happens, I say, because sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't, and both answers are wrong in different ways. They laugh, a little nervously. Guess I'm more tired than I thought. They leave. The door closes properly behind them. I don't write about them right away. There's a rule for people like that, but it's not one you want to use often. If someone arrives who seems completely human and leaves with questions, don't reassure them. Don't scare them. Let them doubt themselves. The station prefers uncertainty to confrontation, At 2:36, the lights flickered twice. That's not a warning. That's an announcement. Something is approaching that doesn't care whether it's noticed. I straighten the counter, aligning the pamphlets, smoothing the corner of a receipt pad that doesn't need smoothing. Busy hands, busy posture. The door opens without sound. The air changes immediately, not colder, not warmer, thicker, like humidity without moisture. This one doesn't walk. It glides, not floating. I wouldn't say that. It moves in a way that suggests walking has become unnecessary, like it's forgotten the purpose of legs, but kept the outline. It's tall, taller than the first regular. Its shape is elongated, stretched just past the point of comfort. Its clothes, if that's what they are, hang in vertical folds, dark and uniform, as if they've never been disturbed by wind or movement. Its face is smooth, not featureless, just unfinished, the suggestion of eyes, the place where a mouth should be. It stops a few feet from the counter. I don't speak. That's the rule with this one. It initiates or it doesn't. Your job is to be present without inviting. After a long moment, it tilts its head. You've changed something, it says. The voice comes from everywhere at once, and nowhere in particular. It resonates in the glass, in the metal shelves, in my teeth. I don't think so, I reply. It leans closer. You have, it insists. There is more record now. My throat tightens. Just doing my job, I say. It considers this. Your job is temporary, it says. Not threatening, just factual. I know. Another pause. Some jobs become roles, it says. Roles become fixtures. I don't respond. It straightens, turning its attention briefly to the journal tucked out of sight beneath the drawer. I feel the moment its awareness brushes against it like a static shock. Then it steps back. This place remembers, it says. Be careful what you teach it. And then it's gone, leaving the air slowly thinning back to normal. I don't write for a while after that. When I do, my handwriting isn't as neat. There are rules about speaking to things like that, but they're mostly about what you don't say. Don't ask questions. Don't argue. Don't deny what they already know. Most importantly, don't promise anything. It's 3:11 now. The station feels heavier, like it's taken on something new. Not dangerous, not yet, just aware. This is the part of the night where I start thinking about replacements. Not because I plan to leave. I don't think anyone really leaves this job. But because the idea of someone else standing here, reading this, makes the weight feel distributed, shared. If you're reading this later, know this. Tonight didn't break any rules outright. Nothing dramatic happened. No alarms, no screams, no blood. Those are the nights you need to worry about. Because when the station starts changing the rules quietly, it's usually because it's preparing for something bigger. And whatever that is, it won't arrive alone. By 3 in the morning, the station feels older. I don't know how else to describe it. The walls don't change. The shelves don't sag any more than they already do. But the air settles into the corners differently, like a room that's been occupied for years without anyone opening the windows. Even the hum of the lights sounds slower, stretched, as if the electricity itself is tired. This is the hour when people make mistakes. Not because anything overtly dangerous happens, but because the night has lulled them into thinking they understand it. They start predicting what will come through the door next. They start categorizing. They start assuming that familiarity equals safety. It doesn't. At 3:08, the radio behind the counter turns on by itself. It's an old thing, tucked behind the receipt printer, usually kept unplugged because it hasn't picked up a signal out here in years. When it clicks to life, it emits a wash of static, soft at first, then rising until it fills the station like fog. I don't touch it. That's another lesson you'll learn quickly. The station fixes its own mistakes if you give it time. Intervening often makes you part of the problem. The static crackles for a while, then fades into something almost like music, not a song, just a sequence of tones, uneven and arrhythmic, as if someone is testing notes without knowing what instrument they're using. Underneath it, faintly, there are voices. Not words, not yet. Just the suggestion of speech, layered over itself, rising and falling like a crowd heard through walls. I keep my eyes on the counter and my hands still. If the radio activates on its own, don't try to tune it. Don't turn it off. Let it finish what it's doing. Interrupting it mid-cycle can draw attention you don't want. At 3:14, the voices stop. The radio clicks off. The silence that follows feels too clean, like something has been erased. I write it down. Not because it happens often, but because when it does, the rest of the night tends to unfold differently, as if the station has just had a conversation it didn't want you to hear. At 3:22, the door opens again. This one moves quickly, almost eagerly. The hinge squeaks in protest as someone pushes past it without slowing down. Their footsteps are light, rapid, darting from tile to tile, like they're excited to be inside. They're small, not a child at least, not exactly, more like someone compressed. Short limbs, hunched posture, head tilted forward so their chin nearly touches their chest. They wear a coat that's far too big for them, sleeves hanging past their hands. It smells faintly of smoke, old and stale, like something that's burned down more than once. They don't look at the shelves. They don't look at me. They go straight for the fridge. The glass fogs where they press their face against it, breath warm and rapid. They make a sound low in their throat, halfway between a hum and a giggle. I stay where I am. This one doesn't like attention. After a moment, they grab a bottle of milk and carry it to the counter, sloshing liquid dangerously close to the cap. They set it down hard enough to make it wobble. Still cold, they say, sounding pleased. Yes, I reply. They grin up at me, teeth small and sharp and too numerous. Good, they say. It doesn't like it warm. They fish into the deep pocket of their coat and pull out something wrapped in cloth. When they unwrap it, the smell hits me, iron and rot, and something sweet underneath, like overripe fruit. I don't look at it directly. They place it on the counter. I scan it. The till doesn't protest. That's how I know it's acceptable. Whatever it is, the station recognizes its value. I take the payment, slide the milk across, and don't react when their fingers brush mine. The touch is dry and papery, like the skin of an old book. They laugh softly, delighted by something I can't see, and scuttle back toward the door. Before they leave, they turn and look straight at me for the first time. You're writing again, they say. My stomach drops. Yes, I say carefully. They nod. That's nice. Makes it easier to remember you. They leave, the door banging shut behind them, the sound echoing longer than it should. If someone smaller than you pays with something you don't recognize, don't comment on it. Don't inspect it. The station knows what it's worth. Trust that. And if they mention the journal, stop writing for at least 10 minutes after they leave. I do exactly that. The next 20 minutes pass without incident, but I don't relax. The encounter leaves a residue in the air, like smoke clinging to fabric long after the fire is out. At 3:57, I hear footsteps behind the counter, not reflected in the glass, not on the cameras. Behind me, slow, deliberate, heavy enough that I feel them through the floor, rather than hear them. I don't turn around. That's the rule here. If something is behind the counter, and you didn't invite it there, acknowledging it gives it legitimacy. I focus on the till screen, on the numbers that don't matter, on the familiar scratches in the laminate. The footsteps stop. A presence lingers at my shoulder, close enough that the air feels disturbed, like something breathing that doesn't need to. Then a voice, low and measured, speaks near my ear. You're tired. It's not wrong. Yes, I say. You won't last forever. It continues. I know. A pause. you're preparing someone. I don't answer. The presence shifts, circling behind me. I catch a glimpse of movement in the reflection, not a shape, just a distortion, like heat haze. Do you think they'll do better? It asks. I think they'll last, I reply. Another pause. That's not the same thing. No, I agree. The presence withdraws, footsteps fading not toward the door, but deeper into the building, toward the back. I wait until the pressure lifts before I move. If something speaks to you from behind the counter, keep your answers short. Don't lie, don't elaborate. It already knows what it wants to know. It's checking your tone, not your words. At 4:12, the back door feed flickers. For the first time since I've worked here, it shows movement, not the door opening, something passing behind it, a shadow, tall and narrow, moving from left to right, slow and unhurried. I feel cold settle in my chest. Whatever that was, it didn't need to come inside. It was just checking. This is the point in the night where I start thinking about morning, not because I'm eager for it. Dawn here is never a relief. It's a transition, a handover. The station doesn't sleep when the sun comes up. It just changes who it listens to. If you make it to 5, you're usually safe from surprises, usually. But lately, 5 has been feeling less like an end and more like a deadline. It's 4:19 now. The pumps are quiet. The door is closed. The forest is still, which means something is adjusting itself, somewhere just out of sight. And whatever it is, it's doing it with intention. By 4:30, the station starts behaving like it knows the night is almost over. Not relieved, not impatient, just deliberate. Like someone tidying a desk before an important meeting, deciding what stays visible and what gets put away. The hum of the lights evens out. The fridge compressor settles into a steady rhythm. Even the forest feels different, less crowded, somehow as if some of whatever lingers out there has already turned back, satisfied with what it's learned. This is when you might think you've made it. That's a mistake. I've learned that the last stretch before dawn is when the station decides whether you're still necessary. At 4:33, a car pulls into the forecourt, a real one. Headlights cut cleanly through the dark, bright enough to cast sharp shadows from the pumps onto the concrete. The engine idles unevenly, coughing like it's cold. Tires crunch on gravel where the forecourt meets the road. I feel a flicker of tension ease in my shoulders before I can stop it. That's dangerous. Normal things lower your guard. Normal things remind you of how the world is supposed to work. They make you forget that this place operates on a different agreement. The driver steps out, middle-aged, broad-shouldered, wearing a high-visibility jacket with reflective strips that catch the light and throw it back in sharp flashes. His boots are scuffed. His movements are heavy, purposeful. He looks like someone who works nights because the job demands it, not because he prefers it. He goes straight to pump 1. Good. Pump 1 is the safest. It behaves the most like it should. If the station were capable of kindness, pump 1 would be it. I watch him on the monitor as he fills the tank. The numbers tick up normally. The nozzle stays where it's meant to. No flickering lights, no strange delays. When he finishes, he replaces the nozzle properly and comes inside. The hinge squeaks. The bell stays silent. He smells like diesel and sweat and cold air. Morning, he says, glancing at the clock on the wall. Or, whatever this is. Still night, I reply. He snorts softly. Figures. He grabs a sandwich from the fridge, a packet of crisps, and a coffee from the machine. He frowns at the coffee, taps the side of the cup as if it's offended him, then shrugs and brings it to the counter anyway. As I scan his items, he looks around the station with mild curiosity. Quiet out here, he says. Must get lonely. I meet his eyes briefly, then look back at the till. You get used to it. He nods, as if that confirms something he already suspected. Road's been weird tonight, he adds. Thought I missed the turn twice. Satnav kept recalculating. That happens, I say. He laughs, but it's a short sound. Yeah, guess so. He pays. The card goes through without hesitation. The receipt prints clean. As he turns to leave, he pauses. Hey, he says. You ever get the feeling you're not alone out here? I consider my answer carefully. Not really, I say. He studies my face for a second, then nods. Probably just tired, he mutters, and leaves. I watch his car pull away, headlights disappearing down the road until the forest swallows them completely. Normal customers leave a kind of echo behind, a reminder of the world beyond the trees. That echo fades quickly here, but for a few moments, the station feels lighter for it. Then the echo goes quiet. At 4:47, the pumps all reset at once. Not activate, reset. Every display flickers, numbers flashing briefly before settling back to 0. The sound is like a chorus of small electronic sighs. That's new. I make a note of it, though my pen hesitates over the page. Writing about new behavior feels like admitting the rules are slipping. If all pumps reset simultaneously without a trigger, don't test them. Don't cycle the power. Let the station decide what they're for now. I don't know if that's a rule yet, or just advice. At 4:52, the temperature inside the station rises by a few degrees. Not enough to be comfortable, just enough to notice. The air feels stale, heavy, like it's been trapped too long. I loosen my collar and resist the urge to open the door. Opening the door early is a bad idea. The station doesn't like being rushed toward morning. It's like waking someone before they're ready. At 4:58, the lights flicker once. At 4:59, they flicker again. That usually means the last arrival is close. I straighten the pamphlets again, even though they're already straight. I check the drawer where the journal is taped, pressing it gently, reassuring myself it's still there. If something happens to me, this needs to be found. The door opens at exactly 5 o'clock. There's no sound, no hinge, no air displacement, no footsteps. One moment, the doorway is empty. The next, something is standing there. This one doesn't have a shape I can settle on. It looks like a person, only if you don't focus on any one part of it. Its outline wavers slightly, like heat distortion, blurring the edges where it meets the air. Its clothing, if it has clothing, shifts subtly, textures sliding over one another without ever settling. Its face is the worst part, not because it's grotesque, but because it's almost familiar. The suggestion of features aligns just enough with human expectation that my brain keeps trying to fill in the gaps. Eyes that aren't quite there, a mouth that exists only when it speaks. It steps forward, stopping just short of the counter. You're early, it says. No, I reply. I'm on time. It tilts its head. That's what I meant. My hands are steady on the counter. That takes effort. You've been here a long time. It continues. Longer than expected. I don't respond. Long enough to change the way things work, it says. Long enough to leave traces. The air feels thick again, pressing in around me. I do my job. I say yes. It agrees. That's the concern. It glances, very deliberately, toward the drawer beneath the counter. Records persist, it says. They outlive intent. My pulse picks up. Is there something you need? One asks. It considers this. Not tonight, it says. Tonight is an assessment. Of what? Of continuity. The word hangs between us. You're not scheduled to end yet, it adds, but you are approaching a threshold. I swallow. What happens at the threshold? I ask, before I can stop myself. For the first time, it smiles. Someone else needs to be ready. The lights flicker. Not once, not twice, continuously. I feel something shift in the building, subtle but undeniable, like a weight being redistributed. The thing in front of me takes a step back. Finish your shift, it says. For now, and then it's gone. leaving the doorway empty and the air slowly thinning back to normal. It takes me a full minute to realize my hands are shaking. I write this down immediately, though my handwriting is uneven. If something speaks about thresholds, stop asking questions. Some answers can't be unlearned. It's 5:07 now. The station feels different, not hostile, not calm, prepared. If you're reading this on a later night and you reach this part of the journal, understand this. The last hour before closing isn't about survival, it's about transition. And whatever the station is transitioning toward, it isn't doing it alone. The lights have stopped flickering. The pumps are quiet. The forest is holding its breath. And I have the unsettling sense that, for the first time since I started this job, the station is no longer deciding whether I belong here. It's deciding what comes after me. 5 o'clock passes without ceremony. That, in itself, is unusual. Normally, there's a subtle shift when the hour turns, a soft easing in the air, like the night acknowledging it's nearly done. Tonight, the minute hand slides forward and nothing responds. The hum of the lights stays exactly the same. The forest doesn't stir. The pumps remain dark and patient. It feels like the station is waiting for permission. I don't give it. I keep doing what I always do in the last hour. I wipe the counter again, slower this time. I straighten the rack of leaflets nobody ever takes. I glance at the security monitor every few minutes, not because I expect to see something, but because the act of checking reminds the building that I'm still working. That matters more than you'd think. At 5:11, the radio clicks on again. This time, there's no static. A voice comes through immediately, clear and close, like someone speaking from just behind my ear. Please remain at your assigned position. It cuts out before the sentence finishes. My stomach tightens. The radio shouldn't be able to do that. It hasn't picked up a signal in years, and when it does activate on its own, it never starts with words. Words mean intent. I don't touch it. I don't even look at it. I keep my eyes on the counter and wait. Nothing else happens. I write it down anyway. If the radio speaks in complete phrases, treat the rest of the shift like an inspection. At 5:19, the smell changes again. This time, it's unmistakable. Cleaning chemicals, bleach, mostly, sharp enough to sting the back of my throat. The station doesn't get cleaned at night. No one comes in to mop the floors or wipe the shelves while I'm here. That's always been the arrangement. The idea of someone else moving through the space during these hours creates friction. So when the smell of disinfectant creeps in from the back corridor, I feel a cold knot settle in my chest. I look at the monitor. The back door feed is still showing the closed door, but the corridor camera, the one that only ever shows a stretch of beige wall and a shadowed corner, now has movement, not a person. A trolley, metal frame, wheels squeaking faintly as it rolls into view, pushed by hands that don't appear on screen. Bottles and cloths rattle softly on its shelves, the sound oddly muffled, like it's coming from underwater. It stops halfway down the corridor, waits. I don't breathe for a long moment. The station has rules about maintenance, even if they've never been written down. Nothing is serviced during the shift. Nothing is replaced. Nothing is cleaned unless it's actively causing a problem that affects a customer. This doesn't fit. The trolley rolls forward again, stopping just short of the camera's field of view. I can't see what's pushing it. I can't see what's standing behind it. The smell gets stronger. I write as calmly as I can. If cleaning equipment appears during the night, do not investigate. The station is preparing something, not fixing it. At 5:27, the front door unlocks. I feel it more than I hear it. A soft release in the mechanism, a subtle shift in pressure. I didn't touch the key. The door doesn't open. It just unlocks. That's worse. I step closer to the counter, positioning myself so the reflection in the glass gives me the widest view of the entrance without turning my back on anything else. My hands rest on the laminate, fingers spread, steady, closed, I say, out loud. My voice sounds too loud in the stillness. The lock clicks, engages again. I let out a slow breath I didn't realize I was holding. If the door unlocks on its own in the final hour, acknowledge the boundary. Don't test it. Don't argue. At 5:34, the lights above pump 3 flicker, just once. Then, faintly, from outside, I hear footsteps. Not on the concrete, on gravel, slow, measured, unhurried. They stop at the edge of the forecourt. I don't look directly. I let the reflection show me enough. There's someone standing out there. Not tall, like the regular. Not small, like the one with the milk. Not distorted or wavering. They look unfinished, like someone sketched a person from memory and stopped halfway through. Their outline is there, but details refuse to settle. Their clothing shifts subtly, changing color when I blink. Their face never quite resolves, as if my eyes can't agree on what it's seeing. They don't move closer. They don't point at the pumps. They just stand there, facing the building, waiting. This isn't one I recognize. That's the problem. I stay still. Minutes pass. The station feels tense, like a held breath that's starting to ache. At 5:41, the figure lifts its head. Even from this distance, I know it's looking straight at me. Not the counter, not the door. Me. A sound carries across the forecourt. Not a voice, exactly. More like the idea of one. You weren't on the list. My mouth is dry. I'm covering, I say. The figure tilts its head, mirroring the gesture I've seen so many others make. There was no replacement scheduled, it says. I haven't left, I reply. A pause. That's the issue. The lights inside the station dim slightly. The hum deepens. The figure takes a single step forward. I don't move. I don't speak. This isn't a customer. This isn't a regular. This isn't an inspection. This is something that expects the night to end cleanly. You've extended the interval, it says. You've created overlap. I follow the rules, I say. The figure's outline shivers, as if that statement doesn't fit neatly. The rules were provisional, it replies. They were not meant to accumulate. The word settles heavily in the air. Accumulate, I think, of the journal, the entries, the habits, the routines I've built to survive. You're training someone, it says. I don't answer. You're not authorized to do that. The station creaks softly around me, like a building adjusting its weight. I'm still on shift, I say. The figure considers this. Then, slowly, deliberately, it smiles. Finish it, it says. Then step aside. The lights flicker, not violently, not threateningly, just enough to remind me that the hour is nearly gone. The figure turns away from the building and walks back toward the trees, its shape dissolving into the dark until there's nothing left but the forest and the quiet. It's 5:47 now. The corridor camera shows the trolley rolling back the way it came, disappearing out of view. The smell of disinfectant fades, replaced by the familiar, stale mix of coffee and dust. Everything looks normal again. That's what frightens me most, because the station doesn't do things like that unless it expects compliance. If you're reading this part of the journal, understand something important. The final minutes of the shift are not about closing procedures. They're about consent. The door is still locked. The pumps are dark. The forest is silent. And I have the distinct, creeping sense that when 6 o'clock comes, the station is going to ask me to make a choice I've been avoiding for a very long time. 6 o'clock has always been precise, not forgiving, not flexible. Just precise in the way machines are precise when they don't care who's standing near them. I've built my habits around that certainty. Everything I do in the last few minutes of the shift is timed so that when the clock turns, I'm already in motion, the key in my hand, the lights ready to switch, the journal secured. Routine has saved me more times than rules ever have. Tonight, routine feels thin. At 5:52, the clock behind the counter hesitates. The second hand ticks forward, stops, then ticks again, as if it's correcting itself. The minute hand trembles between numbers before settling back where it was. I don't look away. If the clock struggles, let it. Forcing time here never ends well. The forest outside remains silent. No footsteps, no movement at the edge of the forecourt. Even the pumps seem to lean inward slightly, their dark shapes closer together than they were earlier, like they're listening. At 5:55, the radio clicks on one last time. There's no static, no music, just a single tone, flat, even unpleasantly calm. Then a voice different from the others, not layered, not distorted, not echoing, professional. Final transition window approaching. The radio clicks off. I don't write that down immediately. Some things aren't meant to be recorded in real time. Some things need distance, or they settle into the page too deeply. At 5:56, the back door feed goes black, not flickering, not static, black. The other cameras remain live, the forecourt, the car park, the aisle behind me, just the back door. I feel a tightening in my chest that has nothing to do with fear and everything to do with recognition. The station is closing off exits. At 5:57, the lights dim slightly across the entire building, not enough to be dramatic, just enough that the shadows lengthen, stretching across the floor in directions they shouldn't. The hum lowers in pitch. I place the pen down carefully and slide the journal back into its place beneath the drawer. I press the tape firmly, smoothing it flat. If this is the last entry I make on shift, it needs to be. At 5:58, the door unlocks again. This time, it opens, slowly. No one stands there. The doorway frames the forest perfectly, a rectangle of darkness that seems deeper than the night around it. The trees beyond the forecourt are closer than they should be, their trunks forming a dense, vertical pattern that hurts to focus on. I don't step back. I don't step forward. I stay where staff are supposed to stand. Closed, I say, quietly. The forest doesn't respond. Instead, something moves just beyond the reach of the lights, not entering, not retreating, shifting position, like someone leaning to see better. You've exceeded your allocation. The voice doesn't come from outside. It comes from everywhere else. The walls, the ceiling, the counter beneath my hands. I'm still scheduled, I reply. There's a pause. That schedule was provisional. Of course it was. Records indicate prolonged overlap. The voice continues. Accumulated adaptations. Unauthorized instruction. I think of you, of someone else standing here, reading this, learning how to last. I'm doing my job, I say. Yes, the voice agrees. You've been doing more than that. The temperature rises again, noticeably this time. The air grows heavy, pressing in on my lungs, as if the building itself is breathing down. At 5:59, the lights above the counter flicker. The pumps outside remain dark. The forest waits. You may conclude your shift, the voice says. There it is, the choice. Concluding a shift here doesn't always mean leaving. Sometimes it means stepping into a different role, a quieter one, a more permanent one. I tighten my grip on the counter. If I do, I ask, carefully, who opens tomorrow night? The silence stretches. The determination is pending. I swallow. And if I don't, another pause, longer this time. Then overlap persists. The word lands with weight. Overlap. I look at the clock. The second hand inches toward the top of the hour. This is the part I haven't written about yet. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know how. Because every time I imagined this moment, it went differently. The second hand reaches 12, 6 o'clock. Nothing happens. No lights switching off, no locks engaging, no sense of release. The station remains open, The forest doesn't withdraw. The hum continues. For the first time since I started working here, the shift doesn't end. That's not correct, I say, before I can stop myself. The air shifts. Correctness is contextual, the voice replies. You have extended operational continuity beyond acceptable limits. I take a slow breath. If I leave, I say, there's no one to replace me. Another pause. Replacement is not your responsibility. That's where you're wrong, I reply. The building creaks, a deep, structural sound, like stress traveling through beams. You've already begun succession, the voice says. The record exists. The knowledge persists. I feel something cold settle in my stomach. That's what this is about, I say. You don't want the station to forget. Silence. Then, quietly, the station does not forget. The lights flicker again, harder this time. Step aside, the voice says. I don't move. I'm still on shift, I say. The forest outside stirs for the first time all night. Branches creak. Leaves whisper against one another. A sound like many voices speaking at once, too softly to understand. You can't keep both roles, the voice warns. Staff and record. Operator and instructor. The pressure in the room increases, enough that my ears pop. I reach beneath the counter, fingers brushing the edge of the drawer where the journal is hidden. If someone else takes this job, I say, they'll need what I've written. You are not authorized. I know, I interrupt. That's another mistake. The lights surge, flaring bright enough to make me blink. The door to the station swings wider, opening fully now, the forest pressing close, shadows stretching across the floor toward my feet. Something stands just beyond the threshold. Not the unfinished figure, not the tall regular, not anything I recognize. It's shaped like a person who knows exactly where they're going. You may conclude your shift now, the voice says again, firmer, final. I look at the clock, it still reads 6. I look at the door, I look at the counter, at the place where someone else will stand, if I get this wrong. If you're reading this and I didn't come back the next night, then this is where things changed, because the station doesn't allow overlap for long. And whatever is standing outside that door now isn't here to buy fuel. It's here to make sure there's room for whoever comes next. To be continued.